Now, somebody help remind me, when did we start this again? How long ago was this? Was September? Wasn't that long, was it? June? That's even further. You're going the wrong way, eh?
You still have a long way to break the record. Maybe, I don't know if Tracy remembers.
We're working it out.
Hold on.
At our previous church, we had a layperson teach a course on Romans Sunday.
Yeah.
And maybe he's still doing it. I don't remember. Craig Chaddock, Tracy?
Oh, yeah.
And Romans?
Do you think he's still teaching it right now?
No.
If he were still with us, he would be.
He'd be in Romans 2.
He might be in Romans 2 by now.
Romans chapter 2. Okay, well, good. I have a champion then to try to succeed in never finish Romans. Well, we're going to get through Acts in due time. So, Acts chapter 10. We've covered a lot in the first 9 chapters. And what's really neat to see is this is your history. This is your family. This is your lineage. This is, you know, when we celebrate Easter Sunday morning, there is absolute proof that Jesus rose from the dead. Well, let me ask you this. How many of you were born? Why should I believe that? No, seriously, why should I believe that?
I have a birth certificate.
What? I get to see you, right? And then, whenever the Lord calls you to your eternal home, and I'm still on this earth, and somebody says, I don't really know this Hayes Kern. I don't really know if he existed. I can say, no. I saw him. I know he existed. And then I shared with you, no, Hayes existed. And then you knew for me a credible fact. And then guess what happened with Jesus? 500 were raised when he died on the cross, who were dead, and went around professing who Jesus was and the truth of who he was. Luke interviewed some of those people and told about who he was. And then those people told other people, who told other people, who told other people, who eventually told you that Jesus died and rose again. So here we are in Acts. Your history, the beginning of the church, as we've discussed, us going along about who we are, the struggles at the beginning of the church. And what were some of the struggles? Do you remember? Well, how about preaching versus ministry? Yeah, and we had a big issue going with that, Jackie.
Circumcision, kind of like the Gentiles versus the Jews?
Yeah, that's going to come up big time here in a few minutes, right? There's going to be this knockdown, drag out. You know, if you really wanted to make a movie and you had to pick one of the books of the Bible, Acts would be incredible. I mean, think about all the things that happen in Acts. Even two of the great figures, Peter and Paul, come at odds. When Paul finally says, okay, listen, circumcision or not, I don't care. Just tell me. I'm going after these people. What's the deal? What do we need to know? What's happened so far? How about some people struck down because they gave everything to the church? Then how do you know you're having church? What's the way? Who's following the way? Where has the way spread to? Up in Samaria? Because they call Peter and John to come up here. Hey, listen, we did this baptism, but I'm not sure it took. We need you to come up here, please. Right? And then we know there's missionaries being sent out. The first one we read about is Philip going out and talking to the eunuch, right? So the church, the way, just didn't form in one little place. It spread, as Jesus said, Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the world, right? So here we are, we're in Acts chapter 10. We had this conversion of Saul, and we get to see, for one of the first times in the new church, boundaries. There's borders. Let me put that in the vernacular of today's modern terms. Are you ready? Republicans, Democrats.
Sure.
Is there a boundary?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, it's a heated boundary. You got that in your mind? That's the same thing that was happening when we read about in Acts chapter 10 within the church. There are these boundary lines that are established. So let's start to unravel some of that, what that might look like. There's not just the city limits we're talking about as boundaries. We're not talking about state lines or fences that were put up. We're talking about custom booths, customs of the people. Jackie said one of the things, circumcision. Yes or no? There's a boundary with that. Why was that so important for the Hebrew?
The covenant, right?
But yeah, it's the covenant. What do we believe as baptized brothers and sisters in Christ? In your baptism, that day you were made right with Christ and faith was given to you through the Holy Spirit. Why do we not have a problem with that and the Reformed brothers do? You go back to the Hebrews. How did that male child become a part of the family of God? On the 8th day, taken to the priest, he was he was circumcised and made a part of the covenant of God. They didn't have a problem with baptism for infants back then. Mark even says this is for you and your children, and children is infant children and the like. Right? So there's some boundaries that have been established, and we got to cross over those. There's also some boundaries. We remember the crossing over in the being from slaves to being free. The children of Israel, what boundary did they cross over to receive the promised land? What was it?
Red Sea.
The Red Sea. What was the other boundary finally to end up into the promised land?
Jordan River.
The Jordan River, right? And they took their borders very seriously back then. So we also have these boundaries that we live in our own society. What do you think are some boundaries outside of our Republican, Democrat, or the other? What are other boundaries we have in the U.S.? Oh, come on.
HOAs.
What's that? HOAs? Those that haven't have boundaries about we don't like them and we like them, right?
I'll second that.
I think some of the craziest things on HOAs I've ever seen is like the lady being recorded knocking on the door, screaming that you cut your plants too short in the front of your house. This is the 1,000,000th time I've come, and then all of a sudden she gets pepper sprayed in the front porch. Oh, they took that HOA pretty serious, right? What else? What other boundaries do we see?
Well, we have.
Pet lovers and non-pet lovers.
Pet lovers, non-pet lovers. What
Children
other
lovers,
boundaries?
non-children lovers.
What's that?
Children.
Children, yeah. Okay, what else?
Income, middle class, upper class.
Good one.
Absolutely.
That brings in race.
What's that?
Race.
Yeah, mixed marriages, race, still divide.
Immigration.
Immigration. When Kathy and I moved to Mississippi, I knew what discrimination was. When we moved to Mississippi, I didn't realize what reverse discrimination was. I'll never forget the first time we went to the Sam's when we were there, and we were pulling our cart up, and we were in a predominantly black area, and as we go to the checkout line, this young lady was sitting there, and she was looking at her phone. So I did what you do. You pull the cart up, I started unloading it, and then I pushed my cart down to the side. She just sat there, didn't even look up. And I said, here's the cart. I said, can we check out? She said, you can't do that. I said, what do we do? She goes, a cart, turn it around. Oh, okay. So we went to the end of the counter, and I turned the cart around the other way, and I walked back, and I said, is that okay? She said, yeah. I said, can you scan the card? Please, scan the card. She scanned the card. And then she scanned one, she scanned two, and she stopped. You know what I'm talking about? She was outside the room. What am I talking about? See there? And then she stopped. I was like, She looked at me, she goes, you think I'm going to load your cart? I said, oh, no, I got it. Put it in the cart, put it in the cart. Waited, she scanned a couple more, put it in the cart, put it in the cart. Put a couple more, and I'm looking at Kathy, I'm like, we are not in
Kansas.
anymore. And then, you know what I said when we left?
Have a nice day.
God bless you.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then she went. And we took our car, walked out, and Kathy goes, what just happened? Well, there are boundaries.
I have the reverse story. I, as a northern boy, went with Dottie's niece to shop at Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah! Piggly Wiggly! How many people know what a Piggly Wiggly is? That's a good southern grocery store chain. I love the Piggly Wiggly.
I started loading, as she processed the stuff through, loading the cart. Oh, don't do that. That's her job. I was taking her position away from her.
Yeah. And I can't say they were all like that. Another opportunity, as we were not mentioned before, probably in the sermon or in here, is when we were checking out this young black lady was so kind and sweet and being nice, and I just said, God bless. She said, oh, baby, come over here. Give me a hug. And I hugged her. She said, I received that blessing in Jesus' name. I'm like, oh, God, she's going to preach. I got to get out of here. So you didn't know what you're going to get. But if you think that their discrimination is over, you're wrong. Go to Mississippi. Go to Mississippi. They still feel the pain of the 60s, still feel the pains of a lynching, still feel the pains of family members being abducted and killed in the middle of the night that they hadn't found their body. They still feel the pain of all that that's happening. We still feel the pain in our country of divisions because of race, of color, of creed, of nationality. You put it on. And so did the church. The church was a safe place, right? But it wasn't always safe. Paul comes after the church. He attacks the church. We talked about that previous. And so now here we are. The story of the church that continues in Acts is a story of boundaries that were faced and boundaries that were crossed. And we could use a good lesson as we here in this country learn from what our church did many, many years ago. The gospel of Jesus demanded there had to be a different way. There had to be something else. There must be a crossing of the boundaries. So what I'd like you to do is think about that for Acts chapter 10. Any Bibles?
I'll get it, thank you.
Acts chapter 10 is literally, if you want to put like a chapter footnote, it is a crossing of boundaries. This chapter is a chapter of crossing of boundaries. Now at your table, I'd like you to read, pick one person to read out loud, Acts chapter 10, and I want you to read the first 8 verses, 1 through 8. This is about a story of a centurion in Caesarea. Acts chapter 10, verses 1 through 8.
At Caesarea, there was a man named Cornelius. Up was known as the cohort. Devout man, feared God with all his house, gave alms generously to the people, and prayed for his house. About the 9th hour of the day, saw clearly in a vision the angel of God come down and say to him, Cornelius, and stared at him and said, what is it, Lord? He said, your prayers and your alms have ascended as a memorial before God. And now send men to Joppa and bring one Simon, who is called Peter. He is lodging with one Simon, a tanner, whose house is by the sea. And the angel who spoke to him had departed and called 2 of his servants, and a devout soldier from among those who attended him. And having related everything to them, he sent them to Joppa.
Yeah, use the term.
Any comments?
Cornelius crossed the boundary. Is a great officer of he's not helping himself. He has back on the Jupiter, Mercury, all the Roman gods.
He's the same centurion, like,
Worship the God of the Jews.
Probably not.
Very often.
I don't know.
Very often.
Has that happened yet?
And it's interesting that upon seeing him,
He was alive.
Probably came from, if not the same, that site was little.
Okay, how we doing? Good?
And therefore,
Everybody finished? If you finished, raise your hand. Okay. You guys need more time? You good? You good? Okay, good, yeah. All right, so Caesarea. It's a small town that's on the sea. Now, there's 2 Caesareas that you'll hear in Scripture. Caesarea Maritima and Caesarea Philippi. Caesarea Philippi is way up north, just south of Tel Dan. In that area, Mount Hermon coming down, Tel Dan, all the same area. Tell Dan, what's it known for? Yeah. Is that where I was going? Do you remember where a golden calf was formed for the altar at Dan? Yeah, that's Tel Dan. Caesarea in the Maritima is right here. And Jerusalem is right here. 70 miles, give or take, from Jerusalem to Caesarea. About 70-mile journey. On the northwest side, about 30 miles from Joppa, which I don't have it on that one. Is it on that one? Yeah. 30 miles from Joppa. You see Joppa right here? Caesarea Joppa. Joppa's a little closer than Caesarea is from Jerusalem. And the town was formerly known as Stratos Tower, and had been named in honor of Caesar Augustus. And that was named by Herod the Great. So when Herod the Great was building Caesarea Maritima, Joppa was an unbelievable trading city. It was of high importance. It was had a deepened harbor that was there, had an unbelievable seaport that was there, and it was constructed with a huge, gigantic amphitheater, and it was very imposing. It brought fresh water there at Joppa into an aqueduct that carried all the way up to Caesarea. With the Caesarea Maritima, you saw the great aqueduct that was there that continued all the way down to Joppa, all the way to Caesarea, and all the way going north. Caesarea, in the New Testament, it was the capital of the Roman province of Judea. Okay, so that meant that all the Roman soldiers and garrisons were there to protect the city, and the most important thing, what? The water supply. If they cut it off at Caesarea, the water supply was cut off for everybody. So that was huge and vitally important that they protect the water supply there. There was a man there in verse 1 we read about. What was his name? Cornelius. And what was he? Centurion. It's a common name for someone who served in the Roman army, but is also one Cornelius Sulla,
was 100 years old.
who liberated 10,000 slaves in 82 BC. And all of that, and the patron's name, was established themselves as a Roman society. So that's where the namesake came from the man who helped free 10,000 slaves. The Cornelius was on the, quote, other side of the two boundaries, if you will, okay? Two different boundaries, he's on the other side. What was his nationality?
Roman.
A Gentile, right? Because he's a Roman soldier. But not just any Gentile, he was a Roman soldier, which put him on a higher level than just a regular Gentile. He was a centurion of what was known the Italian cohort. Have you ever heard of that before? The Roman army was organized into legions, and each legion was 6,000 men. So you might want to make a mental note of that. A legion is 6,000. Each legion had 10 cohorts of 600 men, and each cohort had 6 centuries of 100 men. Century, 100, I get it, makes sense, right? So the centuries were led by centurions, and those officers who worked their way up through the ranks, and today it'd be equivalent to the army, it'd be equivalent of a captain. So a captain in the army. There's archaeological inscription verifies that there was a second Italian cohort of Roman citizen volunteers that they have uncovered in the last 30 years over in Caesarea. Along with the inscription stuff they have uncovered in Caesarea, when we were there, we saw it said Julius Caesar. So we do know the importance of Julius Caesar. We do know the importance of the cohorts and the centurions. And these Italians, quote unquote, were probably requested by Pontius Pilate to be there because of all that was going on, particularly at the festivals, since most of the other Romans were stationed in Judea or up in Samaria for all the Samaritans and the problems they had up there, and the others were Syrian mercenaries that came in. That's who made the army. So you've got this mix. Italians leading, this mix of Syrians trying to hold out these Hebrews and the Gentiles up in Samaria that already, again, we talked about the bastard children, the Samaritans, remember, half-breeds. There was already division. Okay, what are you going to do, church? What's the way going to do? Are you going to try to convert the Hebrews? Are you going to try to convert the Gentiles? What about those Samaritans? You going to leave them out? What are you going to do? We've got boundaries that have been established, and they got to figure out how are we going to go about this. How about you? When you go out and you're proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ, what boundary are you proclaiming to? Huh? Or are you? Is it your co-workers? Is that the boundary? Is it to your family? Is that the boundary? Is it to the people you see every day? Is it, you fill in the blank. Where are we as a church in the boundaries of how we proclaim the good news? So you have this ranking, you have these soldiers that are stationed there, and they are there to stop this cordial hatred that the Jews have for also the authority. Now don't forget, this is going to be setting us up for Jesus and what happened to him the last week of his life. Do you remember what happened to Jesus? There he is, he's brought on trial, right? Taken before Pilate, Pilate brings him out. I don't think there's nothing wrong with this guy. And they say, well, you need to crucify him. But there's nothing wrong with him. If you don't, you're no friend of Caesar. Why did they say that? Earlier in Pilate's reign, he marched in with his banner, marched right up into the temple court. And they're like, what are you doing? You can't do that. You're just desecrating the temple court. And they had appealed to Caesar. He said, Pilate, stop it. Don't do that. I told these people they can worship how they want to. If you do that again, I will. Did the Hebrews remember that? Oh, you bet they did. And so when Jesus was there, they said, you're no friend of Caesar. And so what do you do? Turned him over. So, who is writing this book?
Luke.
Luke. Yeah. Who, before we get ahead of ourselves, who lived in the town of Joppa? Anybody remember who's from Joppa? We talked about her in Acts chapter 9 over about 3 months.
Lydia?
Who?
Lydia.
How about we go back to Acts chapter 9, verse 36. Something really important you can't forget about Joppa. Who? Tabitha, yeah. And tell me what happened to her?
She died.
What? She died? And what about 9 verse 36?
Peter Weston.
What does it say? 9 verse, somebody read 9 verse 36. Out loud.
Now there was in Joppa a disciple named Tabitha.
Wait, time out. Disciple. Again, remember, that's the only time in the New Testament that word disciple is used in the female gender. The only time. She's pretty important, in other words. Okay? And what happened to her at the end? She was raised to life. Okay, so you got this raised to life female disciple of Jesus that they're in Joppa. Okay? Keep that in the back of your mind. Now let's jump ahead back to chapter 10. So here we go forward in chapter 10. Luke is writing this, and he pays special attention to Roman centurions. Look at Luke chapter 7. Luke chapter 7, and let's read 7 verses 1 through 10. I think it's interesting what Luke does. Luke 7, somebody read verses 1 through 10.
After he had finished all his sayings in the hearing of the people, he entered Capernaum,
What's Capernaum?
home of Simon.
Where's Capernaum?
Up on the north of Galilee.
It's on the Sea of Galilee, on the northeast side of the Sea of Galilee, right? Who lived there? Peter's mother-in-law, right? Lived there. And who was close? What's that?
James and John.
They were a little bit further up in Chorazin and Bethsaida, Peter, Andrew, James, and John. They were a little further north on the northern side of the sea. But Capernaum is where Jesus spent a majority of his ministry. We talk about he went to the synagogue. It wasn't in Jerusalem, it was in Capernaum, okay? Big city of Jesus and all his miracles. Keep going.
Now, a centurion had a servant who was sick and at the point of death. who was highly valued by him. When the centurion heard about Jesus, he sent to him elders of the Jews, asking him to come and heal his servant. And when they came to Jesus, they pleaded with him earnestly, saying, "He is worthy to have you do this for him, for he loves our nation, and he is the one who built us our synagogue." Jesus went with them.
What does that mean? What's going on? A Roman putting money to build a synagogue? Where's his faith? Okay, that's what we're talking about now. Keep going.
When he was not far from the house, the centurion sent friends, saying to him, "Lord, do not trouble yourself."
Who do you think built the synagogue, by the way? If a Roman centurion is building a synagogue, do you think he's going to demand the Jewish people get up there and do that as slaves? Or is he going to command his men to go and build the synagogue? Keep going.
"Do not trouble yourself, for I am not worthy to have you come under my roof. Therefore, I did not presume to come to you, but say the word, and let my servant be healed. For I too am a man set under authority with soldiers under me, and I say to one, 'Go,' and he goes, and to another, 'Come,' and he comes, and to my servant, 'Do this,' and he does it."
So who do you think built it? Keep going.
When Jesus heard these things, he marveled at him. And turning to the crowd that followed him, said, "I tell you, not even in Israel have I found such faith." And when those who had been sent returned to the house, they found the servant well.
Pretty cool. There's a healing that just happened right there. Faith, not in the presence of that individual, but healed. Let's read another one. Acts, jump back to Acts, hold your finger at 10, and let's turn to 21. Acts 21. And let's read 31 through 40.
And as they were seeking to kill him, word came to the tribune of the cohort that all Jerusalem was in confusion.
Wait, who's seeking to be killed? Who is it talking about?
Paul.
It's Paul, right? They're going to try to kill Paul. So first time they tried to kill Paul? No, they try to kill him about every city he goes to. Matter of fact, he leaves Thessaloniki and Philippi and goes into Berea and tries to escape them,
Right now,
and the sorcerer, and you know,
21.
it's like everywhere he goes, they just want him dead. I wonder why that is. And we say we're persecuted. Keep going.
He at once took soldiers and centurions and ran down to them. And when they saw the tribune and the soldiers, they stopped feeding Paul. Then the tribune came up and arrested him and ordered him to be bound with 2 chains. He inquired who he was and what he had done. Some in the crowd were shouting one thing, some another, and as he could not learn the facts because of the uproar, he ordered him to be brought into the barracks. And when he came to the steps, he was actually carried by the soldiers because of the violence of the crowd. For the mob of the people followed, crying out, "Away with him!" How far?
Through 40.
As Paul was about to be brought into the barracks, he said to the tribune, "May I ask something to you?" And he said, "Do you know Greek? Are you not the Egyptian then who recently stirred up a revolt and led the 4,000 men of the assassins out into the wilderness?" Paul replied, "I am a Jew from Tarsus in Cilicia, a citizen of no obscure city. I beg you, permit me to speak to the people." And when he had given him permission, Paul, standing on the steps, motioned with his hands to the people. And when there was a great hush, he addressed them in the Hebrew language, saying, brothers and fathers, hear the defense that I now make before you."
You can stop right there. Let's also pick up and read another one. 22, Acts 22, verse is 24 through 30. Somebody, please.
Verse 22.
Chapter 22, verse 24 through 30.
The commander ordered that Paul be taken into the barracks. He directed that he be flogged and interrogated in order to find out why the people were shouting at him like this.
Okay, so wait a minute. Instead of saying, what's the deal? Let's flog him.
Flogs him first.
Yeah, and then we'll ask him what's going on. All right, keep going.
As they stretched him out to flog him, Paul said to the centurion standing there, "Is it legal for you to flog a Roman citizen who hasn't even been found guilty?"
Time out. Did they know he was a Roman citizen?
No.
They knew he was a Jew. He could speak the Hebrew language. But what does it mean to be a Roman citizen? What does that mean now?
Protection.
If you touch me, you're all on trial. Because I'm a Roman citizen and I've got to be taken before the council. You can't do that. Keep going.
When the centurion heard this, he went to the commander and reported it. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "This man is a Roman citizen." The commander went to Paul and asked, "Tell me, are you a Roman citizen?" "Yes, I am," he answered. Then the commander said, "I had to pay a lot of money for my citizenship."
So guess what? I can buy my citizenship. What about you?
"But I was born a citizen," Paul replied. Those who were about to interrogate him withdrew immediately. The commander himself was alarmed when he realized that he had put Paul, a Roman citizen, in chains.
Mine says phobeo. They were afraid. And because he was a Roman citizen. So that carried a lot of weight, right? Carried a lot of weight that was outside the faith, and yet outside the faith held regard to the citizenship of Rome. What about the way? What was that citizenship? Remember, it's no longer for the Hebrew alone. You understand the boundaries and breaking through the boundaries? It's not just because of Rome, not just because of Gentile, not just because of Jew, not just because of Greek, not because of Samaritan. It's for all people, and that's a hard thing to get across. Make sense? Okay, let's jump back to Acts chapter 10. Cornelius earns high praise from Luke, and he says he was a devout man who feared God with all his household and gave alms generously and prayed continually. In verse 2, what does it say? He was a devout man who what? Feared God. It's probably the technical term that applies to Gentiles who had attached themselves to the Jewish faith. So if you're a Gentile and you said, "I'm following the way," you became one who's known as feared God. That's the label that was put on you. So when you read that, who feared God, that is a proselyte, somebody who started following the way. And it means that they're not circumcised. That's important to know, okay? You see the boundaries now? If you were a Hebrew, you had to be circumcised, right? If you were a Gentile and you came through, you were one called feared God, but you were not circumcised. You were a proselyte coming in. What are we going to do? Oh my goodness! I can't keep it straight. Who's the chosen? Who did Jesus die for? Is he the burden of the church? Or is it just me over-exaggerating? I have been known to do that. There's a big, big dilemma we have to figure out. So the first act in all this drama was a vision that was granted to Cornelius. I love the vision. What time is it? Verse 3.
9th hour.
What time is it?
9th hour.
What does that mean in our terms? About 3 p.m. About 3 p.m. There's multiple times during the day that you would pray. This is the 9th hour. It's one of those 3 different hours of prayer. Notice it was an hour of prayer, not a quick prayer. 3 different times, an hour of prayer each day for the Jew. In that vision, an angel of God appears to Cornelius. Have we ever heard that before? Let's look at Luke chapter 1, verse 8. What appeared in Luke chapter 1, verse 8?
8 or 11?
No, starting at verse 8. What's happening?
Zechariah's in the temple.
Start reading in verse 8. Somebody. What's going on? Out loud. Luke 1:8.
When he was serving as priest before God and his section was on duty, he was chosen by lot according to the custom of the priesthood to enter the sanctuary of the Lord and offer incense.
So this is a very high honor, thousands of priests. He was selected on this great, glorious day, very important day, to be the one who burns the incense. So much so that you wouldn't see real well. Because you really, remember, you weren't supposed to even look upon God, right? And the presence of God was there in the Holy of Holies, and here he is, and then keep going.
Now at the time of the incense offering, the whole assembly of people was praying outside. Then there appeared to him an angel of the Lord, standing at the right of the altar of incense.
So the angel of God has appeared before. Here's the angel of the Lord appearing and telling him about this great thing that's going to happen in his life. Let's look also at verse 26. So if you'll read that too.
In the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent by God to a town of Galilee.
So another angel was sent. This time we know for sure it's Gabriel. We call him the messenger angel. He is going to go speak and talk about this person, right, who's going to have this gift. And then we get to look also at Acts chapter 8. Go back to Acts chapter 8. We've already read this. Oh, I don't know how long ago. About Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch in verse 26.